Mr. Minnick here, helping my students with tracing if statements worksheet number 1, but I'm also pretty much teaching students how to evaluate if-else statements. And I'm also reviewing the truth table that's used in many classes like geometry, logic, and other courses that you might take in high school or college. So let's start with that actually. In my notes, there's more detail about this, but the way I like a student to have this memorized is to know that across the top you would have the column headings A, B, and OR. It's classic in some worlds of logic for teachers to use the variables A and B. And it's always capitalized for some reason. That's just the way it is. Some teachers and professors use lowercase p and q, but I'm not doing that. And then I need a column for and in VB the word and is capitalized, and the word or is also capitalized. And in some worlds of college, and is represented with an and symbol, and or is sometimes a vertical line or two. And in some other worlds, and is multiplication, and or is addition. We'll talk about that later. Okay, there are 4 kids in this family. There's Picky Eater, who never eats her asparagus and broccoli. And then there's a Goody Two-Shoes kid. She does eat her asparagus and broccoli, so there's a 1 in there, which means true. And a 0, of course, means false. And then there are 2 other kids. Kid number 2, I guess, here, who doesn't eat asparagus, and he does eat broccoli. And kid number 3, who does eat asparagus, but does not eat broccoli. So 4 kids. And strict parent, S for strict, strict parent, when they're in town, they say, hey, you don't get dessert because you didn't eat anything. Hey, Goody Two-Shoes kid, you do get dessert. True. 1. 1 means true. These 2 kids don't get dessert. Why? Well, because they didn't eat both things. And the word and, it does mean both have to be done for you to get to the reward of dessert. Now separately, ignoring the and column for now and just pretending that only or parent is home, Picky kid never gets dessert because they don't eat anything good for them. And Goody Two-Shoes kid always gets dessert. So this is how I fill in the truth table from like knowledge rather than memorizing. I build it up the way I'm building it up here in this video. Okay, the hardest part probably kind of this truth table is to fill in these 2 blanks. Well, this spot represents kid number 2 here, who does not eat asparagus, but does eat broccoli. When Easy Parent says, okay, you get your dessert if you do eat asparagus or broccoli. Well, look, this kid did eat, right here, this kid did eat broccoli, so they do get dessert. Never mind what they did or didn't do with asparagus. The flip side of the equation for this kid, yeah, did eat asparagus, so Easy Parent lets them have dessert. Okay, now let's take this truth table and learn how it can help us answer questions about code in Visual Basic, or any other computer language for that matter. This truth table works in life. In strict parent, and we'll just say Easy Parent here is the or column to help you remember. Oh, and you always put and before or. Because, well, first of all, and is alphabetically earlier than or. But another way, to put and first is if you ever, in a complicated expression, like this one, number 14, you have an or and an and with no parentheses, according to the rules of logic, you always must do the stuff around the and before you evaluate and do the or. And remember, I did say that and is kind of like multiplication. I don't want to get into it now. And or is like addition. Well, I will get into it now. Check this out. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 1 is 0. I don't like T's and F's. I like zeros and ones. This helps. 1 times 0 is 0, and 1 times 1 is 1. Now let's look at the or column with a plus. 0 plus 0 is 0, 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 0 is 1, and according to a computer, there is no such thing as a 2 or a 3 or a 4. They don't know those numbers. A computer only knows zeros and ones. So to a computer, 1 plus 1 is, well, 1. a jolt of electricity plus another jolt of electricity is a jolt of electricity. There's no like dimmer switch to a computer, not in this low-level example. Okay, so that will also help you fill this chart in. And always comes before or, according to Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally. Now let's start doing the work here. In this code segment that I give you up top, I use what's called an if statement, but it's actually an if-else statement, so it's better than just a plain if statement. This else is optional, but included here for good style. So let's pretend for this whole worksheet that we're talking about kid number 3 here. The kid who does eat asparagus, but does not eat broccoli. So this whole worksheet hinges on this part of the truth table. And number 1, you're supposed to just think of this as being written in here. And you're now evaluating the code to tell me whether message box dessert or message box not dessert pops up. So somebody tell me, is asparagus true or false? Is asparagus equal to yes after you get to this third line of code here when evaluating this code segment? Correct, Matthew. True. The answer is true. Because asparagus equals yes has already been made a fact. And broccoli has nothing to do with question number 1. So we ask, is asparagus equal to yes? This is kind of like a question mark. We're asking, is asparagus equal to yes in each of these questions? Or is broccoli equal to whatever? So it's like a question mark. And this part in the parentheses is called a control expression. It controls whether you get dessert or you don't get dessert. But you never get both of these situations. The way an if-else statement works is either one or the other executes. It's like a fork in the road. Your bicycle either goes that way or that way. There's no like middle way. And there's no maybe. It's either true or false, and it either does this or this. So let's have fun now with number 2. Number 2, I have to erase all that scratch work. You should be using pencil when you do this worksheet. In fact, you know what? I'm going to take points off if you don't use pencil in this worksheet. I'm tired of that other class before you today. So many people had pen, and they messed up, and they had to rewrite their truth table, and it was like just a mess. So please use a pencil. And let's just erase all that. Okay, number 2. It has the word and in here, so please pretend that this whole segment here is placed in the fill in the blank. So asparagus is yes and broccoli is no, so we test this left half. So I ask Elisha, is asparagus, according to these lines of code, equal to yes? True or false, Elisha? True, very good. So we put a little T there. That's the way I do this. And now broccoli, question mark, yes. Elisha, according to this code that comes right before this if statement, is broccoli equal to yes, true or false, Elisha? Correct, false. So put a little F there. Now we use the truth table. If we have a T ANDed with a false, which is kind of like the same as a 1 ANDed with a 0. Hey, which is kind of like 1 times 0. Because remember multiplication? 1 times 0 is 0, and 0 is equivalent to false. If you like math, you probably would use 1s and 0s. If you don't like math, or you just want to do it the other way that you can do this, you use your little T's and F's and refer to your truth chart. So let's do it that way because that's really the way I typically teach you how to do it. Elisha said a little T here and a little F for false there. And over here, when you have a true ANDed with a false, your answer is false. So this 0 convinces us that overall this if statement is false, which actually means we do not execute this, we do whatever's in the else. When you get a false up here in your control expression overall, you always do the else part and not the if, not the true part. So that's how that works. You do not get dessert, which is kind of like a false in this worksheet. Okay, can anybody tell me what they think happens now for the answer to number 3? We have the word or, in other words, easy parent is in town. And we have the situation where we're asking the question mark, we're asking if asparagus equals yes, and we're asking or broccoli equals yes. Okay, I'll do it. Asparagus, yes. Well, that's a true. Broccoli, yes. That's a false. Hey, just like this one up here. Now with or means with a 1 and a 0, a true. Yeah, easy parent lets you get dessert just because you ate one or the other. In fact, we never even had to check that half of it. Think about it. If you work left to right and you get a true and easy parent is in the house, you're done. You don't have to even look at the broccoli. Now, don't tell your parent, I don't need to eat the broccoli. They still probably want you to have your vitamins, but don't rub it in their face that they're the easy parent. Just take your dessert and get out of town. So there it is, true. Okay, number 4, that's a not equal to symbol, as you read in the lecture notes probably already. In math, we use the famous equals with a slash through it, but that's not on the keyboard. So in Visual Basic, we can't type that. So it's represented like this. That means not equal to. So this is a little tricky here, but Nathan, according to this, these lines of code here, is asparagus not equal to no? True. Very good. Because it's equal to yes. So yes is not equal to no. Overall, that's a true. And we're done. The answer is just true because there was no and or to worry about there in number 4. Wow, that was easy. Okay, I will let you do the rest of this. Oh no. We have the not operator to have to deal with in this worksheet. So let's jump in and do a messy one. At number 9. Once upon a time, there was sorry, wrong story. Asparagus equals yes. According to this up here, asparagus is yes. I had to remind myself. So this little part of it's true. Put a little T there in pencil. Broccoli equals yes. That's a false because it's actually equal to no. When you have an and, we work from inside the parentheses out, by the way. So inside the parentheses here, we have to do a T anded with F. T anded with F means false. So all of this is like a big fat false. Maybe you want to like erase or cross those out now because they're out of play. Overall, this whole thing is false. But we have this pesky not here. The not, parentheses of a false, is, well, just like a negative sign in math. It turns it to its opposite, and the opposite of false is true. So we have a bigger T now as an answer that's out of play, and our answer, we're done, we've done everything, it's now true. When you have 3 nots, not that you would ever write code like this, but it's just kind of fun to think about. What does that simplify to if you have 3 nots? Because knots kind of undo each other. Correct, Matt. These 2 will just say cancel each other out. And you're kind of like left with 1 knot. So don't be misled by my extraneous knots, but it is a good tricky question to do on a worksheet like this. Okay, that bold has nothing to do with the answer here to number 15. That bold doesn't make anything true or false. It's just bolded for a reason I don't want to get into. Oh, but notice it's an uppercase letters. Just make a note of that. Good luck with the rest of that worksheet, and have a good day.